Miami at Ohio State. Marco, what should sports bettors be looking at in this game?
Jim Tressel, I don't like as a favorite in a big game. Too conservative.
Okay, you make a good point. We're looking at over a touchdown favorite in this game. It's being hyped up as a battle of marquee teams, but in truth, Vegas looks at one of these teams to be much better.
Absolutely. I mean, Ohio State's had all the hoopla coming in with the high ranking. Terrell Pryor, being a Heisman candidate, played well in the first game, but again, they played, nobody played Marshall in the first game. They're going to see a much, different defense. I mean, just on speed alone, the difference between Miami and Florida and a Marshall defense is immense. But you still have that one thing about Jim Tressel. His coaching philosophy. He wins. But he get to the fourth quarter and win the game in too many times. Yeah, but he doesn't win by enough a lot of the times, and that's a problem.
That's a good point. I think there's a number of – I have a stronger opinion on this game, so I'll be giving a prediction, but I feel like there's a number of issues here. I think on one hand, this speaks in the Ohio State preview we did last week to a good situation for Ohio State in that they are good against good teams. As much as those few marquee losses have skewed people's perception, they have covered 8 of 9 games against teams with a winning record. I mean, 8-1. This is winning teams. So on one hand, that makes me lean towards Ohio State. I think they're underrated against good teams and overrated against bad teams, which is part of that profile you were talking about. Everything else, though, falls on the Miami side for me. So I'm going to kind of take them off one at a time and get your feedback. This is the classic speed issue that Ohio State has against the very best teams. Though Miami is not, in my opinion, especially being an 8.5-point underdog, they're not one of the very best teams, but they have some of the attributes of a great team, which is blazing speed in the skill positions. And that's something that Ohio State, that's the problem Ohio State has against the USC's, years ago now. I like saying that, though, is USC could match them up front, but beat them at the skill positions. Ohio State plays a lot of teams that might have them at the skill positions, but their dominance up front allows them to compensate. So in this case, I think Ohio State should be the favorite, rightfully so, because of that dominance on the line. But boy, Miami is going to have that speed that might be a problem for the Ohio State defense. Thoughts?
I agree with you. Speed is always an issue for Ohio State.
Against the very best teams.
Against the very best. But one thing that people are going to make a comparison to this game, and I think it'll be a mistake, is they're going to go back to Miami of Florida's bowl game last year because they played a Big Ten school in the bowl game, which was Wisconsin. And when you think about Big Ten football, you think more about power football when you're thinking about the elite teams. And, people will say, well, Miami, they couldn't handle that physicality of a Wisconsin, so how are they going to do that against Ohio State? The difference is playing a physical team in the beginning of the season is so much better than playing them later in the season when you're already started to be banged up.
Okay, but is that the case in a bowl game when you have 5 or 6 weeks off?
You have generally 3 to 4 weeks off with the championship games and everything else. They play late into the season.
Miami wasn't in that game.
They weren't in that game, but Miami played at Thanksgiving weekend.
This is the point where you might say, RJ, you're making a good point.
You've got a month, but you still have already played an entire season.
All right, so I would agree with you. You're less beat up game 1 or game 2 than you are even in the bowl game. So I will agree with that.
Okay, so you could have just said I agree with you, Marco.
Well, no, I was making a distinction. I care about our audience so much that though you have a lot of wisdom to impart, I want to make sure that 2% of the time you make a mistake, I'm here to catch you.
That'll love
so
it.
you're saying that Miami had a lot of trouble against the big brutes at Wisconsin in the bowl game. How's this different?
What's going to be different is, I said, because they're fresh. It's the beginning of the year.
Okay,
they're
that's
fresh.
the difference. Okay, next thing is if there's one place that having speed burners can help you, it's special teams. And this Ohio State team, according to the scouts, is very inexperienced in the special teams. I think there's a likely possibility of a big special teams play for Miami, which if you're getting 8.5, 9 points and you get one special teams touchdown, you're probably going to cover that game.
You are, but even if you don't get the one key play that gives you the touchdown, if you're constantly winning field position battles with, they're punting and you're getting an extra 10 yards in field position because of your speed and your kick return, you keep shorting the field and sooner or later you flip-flop the field for a score.
Last point, Miami has an explosive, or at least a highly competent offense. They're very open for the back door. Even if this game goes the Ohio State way, they're up by 14 points late. If Miami gets the ball with 2.5 minutes left down by 14, they've got a better than average chance to backdoor this game, which I always, if you have a team that is not going to get blown off the field and has the backdoor potential and they're getting over a touchdown, to me that's a live dog.
And flip it when the team you're playing, if the coach is up 14, he's more apt to run the ball three times up the middle. You got a better chance of getting the ball back to get that backdoor cover.
I would make this my best bet. I'm not. I have an NFL game I like more, which is coming up. But I'll tell you right now, the one thing is Ohio State being 8-1 against winning teams makes me like this but not love this game. I'm going to make my formal prediction. Ohio State 24, Miami of Florida 21.
I think you're pretty close, sir.
All right, well, there you go. You did win 25 straight games once. All right, now it's your turn to continue the conversation in the comments section with Marco and I. And next up, we're talking our game of the week, and it's Marco's best bet, which is going to be the Florida State-Oklahoma game.